Good morning, everyone. Is my audio and video clear? Please let me know in the comment section. Good morning, Bhakti. Audio, video clear? Okay. So, a very good morning to everyone watching this video. I am Anat Sharma from Olive Board, and I'm here with the live mint analysis that we do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So, I take up this session every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, wherein I bring in some important articles from the newspaper. We discuss them in detail along with the static portion revision of the current. So, we'll try to link the current with the static portion and then try and understand the news. Fine, and we also solve a few MCQs over here. So this is important for all regulatory exams. Daily newspaper analysis, daily newspaper understanding is very important. But apart from this, you have to read the newspaper on your own as well. Okay. And before I begin, if you want to download this YouTube class PDF, go to the Olive Board app. There's going to be a separate courses section and a separate YouTube class PDFs folder. You can download it from here. Good morning, Romil. Now, the first important article over here is, as Israel-Iran war rages, will oil spoil India's party? Now, in today's session only, we are going to have two to three separate news related to Israel-Iran conflict, which is currently going on. Now, we have, over these few years, we have seen that geopolitically, we are seeing a lot of issues at the entire global level, whether it's Israel-Palestine conflict, whether it's the Israel-Iran conflict, whether it's the Ukraine-Russia war, whether it's the US-China trade war, India-Pakistan relations, Middle East, Houthi rebels. So many problems are happening globally, geopolitically. We are seeing a lot of problems. Now, when geopolitics is fragmented, when geopolitics is, not happening in a smooth manner, then there are global disruptions at various levels. One we understand is the supply. Globally, the supply disruption, the supply chain disruptions is something that we see at the international level. Apart from that, oil crisis, the problem of oil, because oil prices, or you can say the oil prices, they follow international level prices, and most of the countries, they are dependent on a few countries for oil. This oil as a resource is not very equally available with many countries. It's not equally available. So a few countries have a monopoly, or you can say an oligopoly over it, because of which there are certain issues like supply chain disruption. There are certain issues like price hikes, which then impact the domestic economies in the form of inflationary pressures. And oil demand has risen over a period of time. If you've seen, oil demand has risen even in case of India. Now this article is examining this problem, that because of this Israel Iran war, plus Iran is threatening that it might close the Strait of Hormuz, which is a very important strait in the Persian Gulf, the only way through which oil is exported via the Iran channel, via that channel. The Strait of Hormuz, if closed, then we will have to, the trade at the international level will take a longer route, and when we take a longer route, the prices automatically rise. Okay, so this is what is happening in the Middle East. This is what is happening between Israel and Iran. Now, this article emphasizes that will this oil, the rise in oil prices, be if you followed the international level news, then the Brent crude oil, we have seen in our previous classes also that Brent crude oil there are different types of crude oil. Brent crude is one of that type. We have seen a surge in the price of the Brent crude oil. Okay, we've seen a surge in this price because of this Israel-Iran conflict. How is it impacting India? We will have 2 to 3 articles, in this lecture itself. Good morning, Sheikh Chetan. Okay. Now, this escalating conflict between Israel and Iran could impact India's economy, especially through fluctuations in global crude oil prices. Because what happens is India imports 80% of its oil from outside of India. 80% of our oil is imported. That is why this is a problem in our country. That is why it might impact India's economy. Because if oil if oil prices internationally increase, then obviously in the domestic at the domestic level also the prices will increase, which will lead to inflationary pressures. And right now what we are seeing is that our inflation is highly controlled. Our inflation is highly controlled, and that is why in response to that RBI is also bringing in certain rate cuts. We are moving towards an accommodative stance, though right now in the recent monetary policy we've shifted our stance to neutral stance, but still our we are focusing on monetary easing. Because of this controlled inflation, this might create the opposite effect. Good morning, Muskan. This might create an opposite effect. Because a spike in oil prices due to these geopolitical tensions, it could threaten this momentum of falling inflation and this falling inflation of the Indian economy. This spike in oil prices might reverse this trend that we are seeing. Might reverse because RBI has brought in certain rate cuts. We are focusing on increasing. We are focusing on monetary easing, and this momentum could be broken because of this spike in oil prices, because of increasing inflation, import bills, which might affect consumption at the end. And if we see India's economic outlook, it is improving. GST collections are improving. Rural demand has surged. Urban consumption has increased. All these are positive trends. RBI has cut the repo rate by to 5.50% to boost credit growth, private investment. But this prolonged Israel-Iran war, it could sharply raise the oil prices. Brent crude oil hit $90 to $120 per barrel. These rising oil prices, this will widen India's current account deficit, increase inflation, reduce consumer demand, make exports more expensive. This is the negative side of it. Okay, so how could the Israel-Iran conflict most directly affect India's economy according to this article? By boosting domestic tourism, by increasing agricultural exports, by triggering a spike in crude oil prices, or by reducing India's foreign exchange reserves? What is the answer? What is the answer to this question? I want all of you giving me the answer and giving me quick answers. Romil, Sheikh, Chetan, Muskan. Bhakti has given me the answer. Romil has given me the answer. What about others? C is absolutely the correct answer, by triggering a spike in crude oil prices. Okay? See again here, West Asia conflict casts cloud over Indian stocks. So now, because of this Israel-Iran conflict, we are also seeing an impact on the Indian stock market. Now, what is the impact? Let's see that as well. Now, this escalating conflict between Israel and Iran, it has raised concerns over oil supply disruptions. Like I've already told you that because of this war, because of the Strait of Hormuz, which has been threatened by Iran, that it might close the Strait of Hormuz. Because of this, what will happen is at the global level, there might be oil supply disruptions and inflationary pressures, which is leading to sharp volatility in the Indian stock markets. There's a fear of turmoil that could push oil prices higher, hurt the market sentiment, and foreign portfolio investors are therefore hedging and reducing their exposure. Hedging means protecting themselves from the risk. and reducing exposure. Nifty fell by 0.65%. Oil shock fear. Brent crude prices jumped from 90 to $113 due to fear of this Iran-Israel escalation. India imports about 85% of its crude oil needs, and 45% of that comes from the Strait of Hormuz. 45% of India's oil imports come from the Strait of Hormuz, making it highly sensitive to supply shocks, and that is why we are seeing a problem. Foreign investors sold over 1,76,600 Nifty and Bank Nifty future contracts. If we see the technical view, then analysts expect Nifty to remain in the 24,300 to 25,000 zone with a bearish bias if tensions persist. So they are going to go into this bearish mode. Okay? So why did Indian stock market turn volatile as per the news report? Due to RBI's monetary policy tightening, due to Israel-Iran conflict increasing oil prices and uncertainty, because of India's poor Q4 GDP data, because of sudden increase in corporate earnings. What is the answer? Now, in one of the next few articles, you will also get an article. You will also get an article which will be the opposite of what we are studying over here. What we have read over here. What we've read in these articles is in these two articles is that because of this Israel in Iran conflict, there is geopolitical tension. There is geopolitical tension, and what might happen? There might be supply chain disruptions. Supply chain disruptions. The Strait of Hormuz might be closed, because of which again there's going to be supply chain disruptions. The prices of crude oil will increase, and that will impact the domestic economy. We'll see another view in one of the articles wherein this might not impact the domestic prices a lot. Can you guys think of a reason? Can you guys think of a reason? We have done it in our live mint analysis. Many times we've done it in our live mint analysis. We have discussed about this oil production and oil producing countries. Can you give me a reason that what might this is one reason, that one impact that we can see because of the global supply chain disruptions. But there's another side to this coin. There's another side to this coin that this might not actually create that kind of a huge impact on the global oil prices. What might be the reason? Can anyone give me that reason? Can anyone give me that reason? For those of you who are regularly attending this live mint analysis classes, you should be able to link these things. Any idea why do you think? One side we have seen that because of this Israel-Iran war, this might impact the supply chain disruption and increase in the prices. But then on the other hand, we also saw in the previous classes another news we saw related to OPEC. Yes, Chetan, yes. So there is this news related to OPEC. There was a news related to OPEC. But what was it? OPEC is not the answer. But we have done a news related to OPEC as well. Yes, Romil, exactly. Very good. Overproduction of oil. Now, in a few days back, we also saw an article. We also saw 2-3 articles on a continuous basis. We saw that OPEC and OPEC plus this cartel. We talked about this cartel that they have overproduced. Overproduction of oil has happened, because of which globally the prices have fallen a lot. And we saw the reason also that one or two of the members like Kazakhstan, Iran, they were not following the terms and conditions of the cartel, and they were overproducing, and therefore OPEC plus, all of them decided that all of them are going to produce extra. They're going to increase the supply, because of which the global prices fell. Now, यहाँ पे we are seeing this impact of this West Asia conflict over here. This might increase the prices, but the increase in prices might be offset by these supply chain disruption from the Strait of Hormuz. This might be offset by this OPEC plus countries as well. So there's going to be an article in the next few slides, I guess. There's going to be an article where we are going to see this impact as well. Now, this is how newspaper reading is going to build your analysis level. That when you are able to see the both sides of the coin. So whenever you analyze anything, whenever there is a news wherein there is an impact being discussed, always see both the sides of it. For example, you are seeing that the repo rate cut, what we saw is that this rate cut, what will it this rate cut, what will happen? Consumption demand will increase. Why will consumption demand increase? Because the repo rate cut means that the banks will be able to take more loans from RBI. Okay, banks will be able to take more loans from RBI. And the banks will now be able to give more loans to the customers also. So they'll reduce their rate of interest also. They reduce their deposit rates also. They'll be able to give more loans to the people also. Consumption demand will increase, and overall economic growth will increase. This what if this repo rate cut does not actually increase consumption demand, does not actually lead to an increase in aggregate demand? There can be certain reasons which might work in the opposite. Say because of these geopolitical tensions, inflation increases, then this might not actually happen. So you have to see both sides of the coin. Bhakti Singh, but ma'am, demand bhi to increase decrease hoti hai. Yes, but we are seeing demand. Yes, demand in this case, in case of oil, demand is always positive only. है ना Bhakti? In this case, demand increase decrease hoti hai, but in this case, what happens is whenever we discuss about economic models, let me just change the color of the pen. Whenever we discuss about economic models, there are some areas wherein the demand side operates more comprehensively, and some areas where supply side impacts are seen more comprehensively. They both don't, in equal terms actually work together. For example, at this macroeconomics level, if you see, the oil demand is mostly 99% is always going to be positive, and it is positive right now because oil is limited. Oil as a reserve, oil as a resource is limited. Only a few countries has this resource. If this was evenly distributed, then of course demand and supply dynamics would work. But here the supply side works more than the demand side in this case. Why? Because oil as a resource is limited in a few countries, and only a few countries have control over the oil production. The OPEC and OPEC plus countries, they have more of their dominance over this. This is kind of an oligopoly market structure wherein control over price, wherein the monopoly power is more, where the control over price is more, and when the control over price is more, they can create supply chain disruption. So in this case, demand is always going to be very high, but the supply is controlled. Whether the supply is able to meet this demand depends upon these few countries. Right, Bhakti? On a macro level, demand for crude usually remains constant, only changes in the extra long term. Exactly. So demand is usually very high. Demand is usually constant. Everybody is demanding. Oil demand is always there. The important thing over here is the supply keeps on fluctuating. Supply, because the supply is dependent on a few countries. Ma'am, price increase can still occur in a situation like this that can create an impact on India's fiscal deficit. Yes, of course. Of course. Price rise can happen, but there is a price rise. We are seeing one side, we are seeing that the price rise will happen, but the other side, we are seeing that this price rise might not be that much. Okay, if price was supposed to be increased by $10 because of this conflict, there might be a possibility that this only increases by $2 because of this OPEC plus production. Hello, Muskan. Plus, we are seeing that on the fiscal deficit side also, we'll see one article here in this today's news only. We are going to see an article that fiscal deficit is highly controlled right now. And there are reasons why fiscal deficit is controlled, because government's revenue is a lot. Whether it's GST collections, good GST collections, good income tax collections, good dividends which we are receiving from RBI. RBI has given a record surplus to government of India. We've seen this in the previous classes. Then dividends of the state, the public sector enterprises have increased a lot to the government. So on the fiscal side, right now the government is in a good position. That is why it might not impact India at that level, right? Good morning, comedy circle. Chetan is saying yes, and because of oligopolistic structure, supply is usually controlled and manipulated. Exactly, Chetan. That is what I'm trying to say. Yes, comedy circle. This is very important for banking also. Okay, because newspaper reading is very important. Okay. I hope you've understood this thing. So whenever what I'm trying to tell you from this article is whenever you study anything, whenever you read the newspaper, always explore both sides of it. And this is how your analysis power will increase. Okay, always see the positives and the negatives. Okay, now let's move back to the question. Why did Indian stock market turn volatile as per the news report? All of you had given me the answer as B. Right? So the answer is B, yes. So this is B only due to the Israel-Iran conflict increasing oil prices and uncertainty. ठीक है? चलो. So the fiscal deficit wala thing, Muskan, that I was talking about, this is the article over here. Fiscal deficit may stay below estimate at 4.2 to 4.3% of GDP. First of all, I have a question for all of you. What is this flexible inflation targeting framework? What is this flexible inflation targeting framework of the RBI? FIT, flexible inflation target framework of RBI. Yes, a question from this topic can be expected in the coming RBI exams. Exactly. So, if you guys are a part of my Telegram group, if you're not, you can join this Telegram group. I will form a question, a long answer question, and I will give it to you in the Telegram group. Okay, I will form a question related to this. Okay, and you can follow over here, and I will form a question. Fine, Muskan. 4 plus minus 2%. Okay, this was just from the previous, from this analysis that we were doing. We were talking about inflation. So that is why before we discuss this article, I wanted to ask you that I hope you know what is this flexible inflation targeting framework. Okay, so it is 4 plus minus 2%. And what is the current level of inflation that we are seeing? That it is highly controlled within this level. Inflation is controlled, and that is why this is another reason why RBI is also bringing in rate cuts, because this inflation is controlled. So if the global crude oil prices they increase, the inflationary pressures might not increase that much because we are seeing an ease in this inflation scenario. Okay, this was just a little bit over here. Chalo, now fiscal deficit may stay below estimate at 4.2 to 4.3% of GDP. What is the target for this year to be kept for fiscal deficit? What was the target that was set for 25-26? 2025-26, what was the target that was actually kept? Who's going to tell me? Here, the article is saying that fiscal deficit may stay below 4.2 to 4.3% of GDP. But what is the target for 25-26? The fiscal deficit target that we have decided. Yes, Muskan, Bhakti, Chetan. No, not 2 to 6%, not 4%, not 4.2%, not 4%. The fiscal deficit target for this year was 4.4%. And according to economic survey, the fiscal deficit was 4.6%. Okay, it was 4.6%, but our target was 4.4%. But now we are seeing that the fiscal deficit might even stay below 4.2, 4.3%. We have to remember this. Central government is expected to bring down the fiscal deficit for 25-26 to around 4.2 to 4.3% of GDP. but they had estimated a 4.4% of GDP fiscal deficit. Okay, this improvement is due to higher than anticipated dividends from RBI. So just like we've seen it in the previous classes, RBI is giving higher dividend to the government, public sector undertakings and state-run banks. Public sector undertakings and state-run banks are giving record dividends to the government of India. Okay, and that is why their revenue side is good enough. Good enough. So fiscal deficit, which is equal to borrowings, that might not actually happen in this year a lot. That is why we are seeing that fiscal deficit is controlled. This may allow the government to maintain the capital expenditure without compromising the fiscal discipline. We do not need to borrow in order to, create capital expenditure. We can do it from the revenues that we have. ठीक है, and therefore the government may revise the fiscal deficit target to 4.2 to 4.3% of GDP, which was earlier pegged to 4.4% of GDP. ठीक है, so 2.56 trillion rupees we got from RBI, state-run banks and public sector undertakings. RBI alone will transfer 2.11 trillion as surplus. Strong revenue flows mean that the infrastructure and capital spending will increase. So what is the primary reason for the expected reduction in India's fiscal deficit to 4.2 to 4.3% of GDP in 25-26? Higher tax collections from GST, reduced defense expenditure, rise in foreign direct investment, higher than expected dividends from RBI and PSUs. What is the answer? So the major reason is higher than expected dividends from RBI and PSUs. D is the correct answer. Higher than expected dividends from RBI and PSUs is the major reason. Okay? Yes, exactly. Closer tax scrutiny on charitable trusts, research bodies. Now, here we are talking about tax scrutiny. Now, the Central Board of Direct Taxes has issued new guidelines to enhance tax compliance by closely monitoring the income tax returns of charitable trusts, religious institutions, and research bodies. Now, what happens is these kind of institutions, like charitable trusts, religious institutions, research bodies, we see a lot of ghapla happens in these kind of institutions. These are charitable trusts for charity, religious institutions, but a lot of manipulation happens over here. An entire parallel economy works through these institutions. So and plus they evade taxes a lot. We are going to see the reason in the next few slides over here. But CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes, it has issued certain new guidelines for the tax compliance of these kind of institutions. Okay? Entities have claimed tax exemptions. Now, what have these entities done? They have claimed tax exemptions. Okay? They have claimed tax exemptions that they are charitable trusts and they are working for the society for social welfare. So, they have, on one side, they have taken up tax exemptions. But in their statement of accounts, they have shown that this income is taxable. So, they are kind of evading the genuine taxes. They are evading the genuine taxes. One side, they are taking tax exemption also, and then when they are filing their returns and all, in that case, they are writing that this income is taxable. This is taxable income. So they are kind of evading their taxes. Okay? And that is why we've brought in certain rules in order to increase this scrutiny. So registration rules have been updated. So now so those entities that have claimed tax exemptions but they still show additions to taxable income or non-compliance with registration rules, they will now be automatically flagged for scrutiny. Ma'am, what is difference between economy preparation for NABARD and RBI grade B? It's similar. Arpit, it is absolutely similar. The classes that I take for RBI grade B, those classes are available for NABARD students also. So the syllabus is, maximum same. Okay. Section 8 companies. Yes, Chetan. Yes, ma'am, tax evasion methods are found here. है ना? Exactly. The only reason why foundations and charitable trusts are actually formed. है ना? So what is happening is these charitable trusts are sometimes formed in order to evade taxes also. Through these trusts, through these charities, people open fake NGOs also in order to evade their taxes. And they show that this income is used in NGOs. They have their loopholes. They make certain, they utilize certain NGOs, charitable trusts, religious institutions, and through these tax evasion happens a lot. So now they are in scrutiny. They're under scrutiny. Okay, so this scrutiny will be till mandatory till 30th June 20 till 30th June. ठीक है, wider compliance drive will happen, broader compliance push by CBDT to check tax evasion, boost revenue collection to support this 1 trillion tax relief plan for the middle class. ठीक है, as per CBDT data, over 3.14 lakh charitable trusts and associations filed ITRs for financial year 22-23. ठीक है, so this is still under review. A new section is in effect since April 2021. So from 1st April 2021, all entities claiming exemption under section 10, 23C or 12A must re-register and comply with new conditions. Okay, so this section you have to remember, sometimes direct MCQ can be asked in the examination that we're talking about which section over here. Section 10, 23C or 12A. Okay, avoiding roving inquiries. So these guidelines are made to ensure targeted scrutiny without unnecessary harassment. Okay, so we are focusing on scrutiny also, but it should not be a harassment also of these institutions. Okay, so if a registration is pending appeal, then that case will be excluded. Otherwise, this scrutiny is applicable on everyone. So, what is the primary objective behind CBDT's scrutiny of charitable trusts, ITRs? To increase foreign donations, to verify GST compliance of NGOs, to improve tax compliance and prevent wrongful exemptions, to privatize charitable trusts. Section 1023C is for educational institutions. Right. Absolutely correct. C, to improve tax compliance and prevent wrongful exemptions. ठीक है? चलो. CAG to deploy AI for faster audits. Very, very important article. Role of AI. Role of artificial intelligence. So we get questions like this even in your descriptive answer. If you see role of AI in banking last year 2024 the paper that you had, usme role of AI in banking was asked. Now here we can see the role of AI in auditing. So CAG will use tools, AI tools for faster audits. That is what we are seeing here. So Comptroller and Auditor General, which audits the accounts, sole agency that audits the accounts, plans to integrate generative AI, machine learning, and optical character recognition into the auditing progress. So what all it is going to incorporate? Generative AI, machine learning, optical character recognition into the auditing process. The aim is to reduce manual workloads, enhance anomaly detection, make audits more data driven and efficient. Okay, so there's increasing complexity of governance, expanding scope of public sector auditing. So using AI will make it more easy and fast, efficient. So AI tools for voucher verification and risk detection will be done. Remote and hybrid audits will be expanded in areas like GST, stamp duty, public works. The aim is to enhance anomaly detection or any kind of ghapla detection, anomaly like ghapla detection. Predict high risk areas, reduce manual editing effort. CAG right now oversees over 700 central public sector undertakings, 1600 state enterprises, 485 central autonomous bodies, numerous local bodies. So using AI is going to make it easy. Okay? Multiple state audits include welfare schemes, solid waste management, Jal Jeevan Mission, smart cities, Clean India Mission, MSME support. So CAG's role is a lot. Using AI would make it easy, efficient, and fast. So, what is the primary goal of CAG in deploying AI tools for audits? Increase employment in auditing sector, generate tax revenue from AI applications, enhance speed, accuracy, anomaly detection in audits, privatize auditing functions. What is the answer? Yes, enhanced speed, accuracy and anomaly detection in audits. ठीक है? Okay, so over here, let me see whether you have read the newspaper or not. This is a trick question for you, or you can say a surprise question for you. Which Iranian nuclear site suffered critical damage from Israeli airstrikes according to IAEA? Natanz, Tehran, Bushehr, or Isfahan? Chetan is saying B, Tehran. Anyone else? Bhakti is also saying Tehran. Chetan is saying Tehran. This was the headline. Critical damage to key Iranian nuke site. Nuke site where nuclear energy, nuclear energy is, produced there. Muskan is saying A, Natanz. Anyone else? Let me tell you, both these answers are wrong. Natanz and Tehran, both these answers are wrong. Anyone else? No, not Natanz. The answer The answer is Isfahan. So this article over here, critical damage to key Iranian nuke site according to IAEA. Not even C, not even A. D, Bhakti. Yes. Yes, Bhakti, D. So Bhakti gave me the correct answer, Isfahan. D. ठीक है? So multiple Israeli airstrikes have caused serious damage to Iran's uranium conversion facility at Isfahan, which was reported by International Atomic Energy Agency. ठीक है? Acha, where is the headquarter of this International Atomic Energy Agency? Anyone? Where is the headquarter of IAEA? Anyone? Does anyone know where is the headquarter of IAEA? Such kind of questions can be asked in your exam. If there's any international agency, you should know. Yes, yes, Austria, exactly. Vienna, Austria. ठीक है? So where is the headquarter of IAEA? Vienna, Austria. Please remember it. ठीक है? Not USA, Chetan, but Vienna, Austria. This is the headquarter of IAEA. Yes, Shashank, exactly. ठीक है? So here we are seeing that what is the uranium conversion facility at Isfahan? This was attacked by Israel, and this might set back the Iran's nuclear fuel cycle. ठीक है? So Isfahan is critical for uranium processing, which is needed for nuclear fuel. ठीक है? So although Israel did not destroy all nuclear infrastructure, serious setbacks were inflicted, extensive damage warned of potential delays in Iran's fuel cycle. ठीक है? Israel's campaign is seen as strategic, targeting surface level facilities. This could hamper Iran's underground enrichment activities. ठीक है? Sure. Next. US-China trade truce keeps out military use rare earth issue. So now we have seen that China and US, they are, currently they are focusing on a trade agreement, right? They are under talks with each other, right? But they have signed an agreement, but the agreement failed to address the main issue of export restrictions, which are tied to military use rare earth metals. Again, rare earth elements. So you have another article over here. What we are seeing is that US and China, they are discussing, an agreement has been signed, a trade truce has been signed, but there is still export restrictions. The issue of export restrictions related to rare earth elements, this was still not addressed. So kiya kya? And the main problem is not only addressed. US continues to maintain curbs on advanced AI chip exports to China because of national security concerns. No agreement has been reached on easing controls on rare earth magnets. So what have we actually discussed? And so what we are seeing over here is that they are talking, but the major issues have not yet been discussed. So US-China trade truce left out national security linked issues, rare earth magnets, fighter jets, which are used in fighter jets and missile systems. US continues restrictions. China linked progress in trade talks to easing restrictions on rare earth exports. No talks related to that. President Trump termed the London handshake deal a great deal, but there's nothing great about the deal. Major issues have not only been discussed. So what critical issue was excluded from the recent US-China trade truce? Tariffs on consumer electronics, currency manipulation controls, military use rare earth exports, or opioid trafficking sanctions. What is the answer? Issue excluded from this US-China trade truce. Yes, military use rare earth exports. Okay. Okay, again, this was a very small kind of article in the newspaper. Let me see whether you've read the newspaper or not. Where did ISRO successfully conduct its first rocket launching test with a payload from Indian soil, from an indigenous payload? First rocket launching test, sorry. Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh. Chetan is saying Andhra Pradesh. Anyone else? This was a very small article in the newspaper on one of the sides. Chetan has given me Andhra Pradesh. Anyone else? Bhakti is also saying Andhra Pradesh. Anyone else? This is the wrong answer. First of all, Andhra Pradesh. I know most likely people would say Andhra Pradesh uh, uh, because everybody knows why. But it's not Andhra Pradesh. It is exactly Uttar Pradesh. Okay, so ISRO's first successful rocket launching test with payload in UP. So ISRO successfully conducted a rocket launching test, marking the first time a payload was launched via a rocket from the soil of Uttar Pradesh. ठीक है? हाँ, श्रीहरिकोटा करके everybody thought Andhra Pradesh, but no, this is from UP. ठीक है? Chalo. We need more civil engineers to address India's urban infrastructure crisis. See now, since a few years, we have seen that people are moving more towards services sector-led jobs and services sector-led education, say IT, MBA and all. Civil engineers, we have seen a shortage of civil engineers. We are seeing a shortage of civil engineers now. And because of this shortage of civil engineers, we are seeing problem in urban infrastructure. Okay? So, this article highlights India's severe shortage of civil engineers, which is worsening the urban infrastructure challenge like waterlogging, flooding, poor road quality, project delays. So despite this rapid expansion of infrastructure, few engineering graduates pursue civil engineering careers. And therefore, there's a gap in competent professionals for infrastructure development. Over 90% of urban India suffers from waterlogging due to poor road design and drainage. Civil engineering graduates, they pursue careers in IT or management instead of civil engineering. India produces fewer civil engineers than doctors. Local governments, they hire engineers in bureaucratic roles rather than, actual technical infrastructure work. And because of this shortage, there's low quality construction, poor supervision, corruption in the infrastructure sector. Therefore, public policy interventions are required, like centers of excellence are required. Increasing seats in civil engineering are essential to, increase more and more people becoming civil engineers. Greater visibility through projects like Chenab Bridge may encourage youth interest in civil engineering. So, according to the article, what is one of the primary reasons for India's urban infrastructure challenges? Excessive foreign investment, lack of public-private partnerships, shortage of skilled civil engineers, delay in approval of smart city plans. What is the answer? Yes, shortage of skilled civil engineers. Again, a surprise question for you again. Very, very important article. Very, very important article. Which country has become the world's largest rice producer? China, USA, Brazil, or India? China, US, Brazil, or India? Which country has become the world's largest rice producer? Bhakti saying China, Roman is saying this was the on the first page of yesterday's newspaper, Mint newspaper. On the first page, we saw this article. Achha, so all of you are saying China. Anyone else? Bhakti saying China, Romil China, Muskan, Chetan. Everybody is saying China. But China was already the largest producer. I'm saying has become the world's largest producer of rice. China was already the largest producer of rice. Now, which country is the largest producer of rice? Another country has surpassed China to become the world's largest rice producer. Can you give me a guess, anyone? Chetan is saying Brazil. The answer is India. The answer is India. Over here, you can see here the thorny side of India's newly won rice crown. Okay, so India has won this rice crown that we are saying India has become the largest producer of rice. Largest producer of rice. India, the top two exporters were, you can say the top two producers were China, India only, Muskan, Bhakti. Okay? Right now, India has taken over China as well. This is what this article is. Okay? India has surpassed China to become the world's largest rice producer, reaching a production of 149.1 million tons in financial year 25. Okay, Bhakti? So currently it is India, right? But before, now it is India basically. It has surpassed China. Clear? Okay, Bhakti Muskan. But this increase has come at the cost of pulses and oilseeds, raising concerns about nutrition, water use, and import dependency. See, rice as a crop, starting from your Green Revolution. Green Revolution, what happened was when we brought HYV seeds, the most focus was on wheat and rice. Okay, so their production increased a lot at the cost of production of other things like pulses and oilseeds. Secondly, the MSP on rice is the highest. MSP on rice is the highest, which encourages the farmers to grow rice and produce rice as a crop. Okay? So these are the two major reasons why we have focused on rice production and why India has, recently become the top producer. Why? Because of this only, that MSP on rice is very high, and that therefore farmers, at the cost of producing other things like pulses and oilseeds, they are focusing on producing rice only. This might be, we have become, the largest producer of rice, but there is a thorny side of it. There's a negative side of it, that we have done it at the cost of production of other other things like pulses and oilseeds. So our productivity of rice has not increased. Production has only increased. We should have, so there's this concern that what happens to the nutrition or water use or import dependency. We are depending upon imports for other things like pulses, oilseeds and all. We are actually exporting our water, because rice is a highly water intensive crop. A lot of water is needed, a lot of irrigation is needed for producing rice. In the paddy fields, you might have seen water logging paddy fields. A lot of water is needed. So, in disguise of rice, we are actually exporting our water, which is scarce. We have shortage of water and we are exporting it in the form of rice. We are increasing our import dependency for other products. Our nutrition is being hampered. So this is the thorny side of this newly, one rice crown. Waterlogged fields, right, Chetan? Okay, so India produced 149.1 million tons of rice in financial year 25, overtaking China. Cereal dominance, farmers are shifting from pulses and oilseeds to rice. Why? Because of better MSP support, lower risk. India imported pulses and cooking oils worth 1.9 trillion in financial year 25, 65% of the total agriculture import bill. एक side पे we have increased rice production and become the largest producer, एक side पे we are importing the other things. Then what is the use? Right? Heavy reliance on rice has led to poor quality diets, hidden hunger. Hidden hunger in the sense lack of essential nutrients like iron, zinc, and all. Rice needs 4 to 5 times more water also, so we're actually, exporting our water. So this is worsening the water scarcity. Okay, so what are the policy suggestions in this case? That we need to, bring in trade protection for pulses or oilseeds. Subsidies for water efficient crops should be provided, not for water intensive crops like rice. Okay, so which country did India overtake to become the world's largest rice producer? And what is the concern associated with this milestone? China, because of loss of export market, is the major concern. USA, but surge in fertilizer prices is the major concern. China shift away from pulses and oil seeds is the major problem. Brazil, an increase in rice imports. See, way forward for this problem, first of all, can be rationalizing the MSP. Rationalizing MSP first of all. Okay, we need to incentivize the farmers and incentivize the farmers to move towards other things as well, like pulses and oil seeds, or other, or you can say we need to, for pulses and oil seeds, and for that MSP can be increased for that and can be reduced for rice. Okay, apart from that, water efficient crops like millets and all, they should be encouraged. Their production should be encouraged. Okay, farmers should be given relief in case of other things, or your import dependency should be reduced for pulses and all. Focusing on schemes like missions like Atmanirbharta in pulses. You might have read about this Atmanirbharta in pulses in your budget. Bring in certain schemes, but proper implementation of these schemes will be important. And so basically, we need to nudge the farmers, because farmers, they are not thinking about at the, at this national international level. They are just thinking about their own profits, their own security. So we need to nudge these farmers. We need to nudge these farmers to move towards better production of crops and all. And for that, we need to assure them. Okay? In order to maintain the food security, we have to make pulses affordable, available, and accessible. Exactly. Pulses and other things, we need to make it affordable, available. We need to move from food security. Food security, we can do it from rice also. But rather than focusing on food security, we need to focus now on nutritional security. So your way forward can be that we need to move food security. We almost, achieved this food security. But we need to move from food security towards nutritional security. ठीक है, food security अब वही वाली बात होगी that with a 10 rupees का chip pack पेट भर गया, your stomach is full, but this is not giving you adequate nutrition. So we need to move away from our food security as the focus towards nutritional security. ठीक है? Okay, Muskan? Chalo, so the answer to this question is China, and the problem that we are seeing is shift away from pulses and oilseeds. ठीक है? So this is the article that I was talking about. Why soaring oil prices may not impact India. This was in yesterday's newspaper. Okay, so despite these rising global crude oil prices, this might not impact India as much. Okay, and what are the reasons? Stable domestic fuel prices, strategic sourcing, higher than expected oil supplies by OPEC. This is the reason. Okay, these are the reasons why it might not impact India much. So crude oil prices surged 7%. India imports 88% of its crude oil. So you might have seen in most of these articles, somewhere it is written 80%, somewhere 85%, somewhere 88%. So you can just say approximately 80 to 85% of oil is imported by India, and maximum is from Strait of Hormuz, 45%. Okay. Now this article is saying that India imports 88% of its crude oil, but the impact is minimal due to steady retail prices and diversified sourcing. Because our source of oil is just not from the Strait of Hormuz, but our source of oil is diversified from different countries. Okay, plus the retail prices are also steady as of now. Closure of Strait of Hormuz could push prices to 120 to 130 per barrel, but this is still unlikely because Strait of Hormuz का जो closure है that has been threatened by Iran many times before but has not actually done it. ठीक है? OPEX actions, better supply management, stable demand buffer for India and are other reasons why this might not impact India. Fuel prices in India have not moved with the global crude since mid 2022. Government increased excise duties by 2 per litre in April but kept retail prices unchanged. ठीक है, plus even every 10% rise in crude oil could lead to 30 basis points inflation rise as per RBI. ठीक है, plus there's also this thing that it has been seen that the the oil producing companies might, bear the cost, but but it might not shift to the consumers. It might not shift the price rise to the consumers. This is written in this article only, I guess. Plus, we have a good amount of buffer also in India. Okay, we are filling up our strategic oil reserves. Strategic oil reserves in India, we are fulfilling it. We are filling it properly, and that is why we might not see an impact in India. So, according to the article, why is India unlikely to face a major impact from rising global oil prices? So, in today's session only, we have seen 2-3 articles in favor of a price rise impacting India, and in this session only, we've seen the another reason why it might not impact India negatively. Strategic Petroleum Reserves (SPR). Yes, Chetan. So, according to the article, why is India unlikely to face a major impact from rising global oil prices? India has oil self-sufficiency. Fuel prices in India are automatically deregulated. Higher than expected oil supplies and stable retail prices. India imports oil only from non-Middle East countries. What is the answer? Yes, higher than expected oil supplies and stable retail prices. Again, an article from oil point of view. Oil warms on conflict, but inflation may escape heat. Again, we have an article. So, despite rising crude oil prices due to escalating tensions between Iran and Israel, India's inflation may not be significantly impacted as state-run oil refiners are likely to absorb the price hike. Another reason which is given over here, another reason for why the price hike might not be in case of India is because the straight-run oil refiners, they might absorb this price hike and they might not shift it to the consumers. Because India's retail fuel prices may remain stable. Crude oil prices surged to around this, but it not might impact India. RBI reduced inflation forecast to 4.7%. Experts say even if oil hits 90 per barrel, retail inflation may rise only marginally, not a lot. India's macroeconomic fundamentals remain stable, aided by government price control buffer stocks. Brent prices would need to average above 100 per barrel for a sustained inflation impact. So, thoda bahut, if prices are increasing, it won't impact. And India's current account deficit is also manageable at 1.5% of GDP. So, why is India's retail inflation expected to remain stable despite rising crude oil prices? India has stopped importing crude oil. Global oil supply has increased suddenly. Reserve Bank of India fixed petrol prices. Straight-run refiners may absorb the price hike. So, I will form a question on this because you have a lot of material now to write an answer. So, for those of you who are not part of my Telegram group, you can be a part of the group. Mannat Educator is my Telegram handle. You can be a part of that group. I will send a question over there for you guys to write, and and you can send it to me. I'll evaluate it for you. Okay? So, what is the answer to this question? The state-run refiners may absorb the price hike. Okay? अच्छा, can't to shift away from government steps down as G20 Sherpa. Now, what do you mean by G20 Sherpa? Anyone? Amitabh Kant ji, the economist, he was till now the G20 Sherpa. What do you mean by G20 Sherpa? See, every member country of this G20 group of 20 countries, they appoint one person which represents India at the international level, at this G20 summit. Okay, so our G20 Sherpa, every country has this. Our G20 Sherpa was Amitabh Kant till now, representation of India at the G20 summit, envoy of head of a member nation. So Amitabh Kant ji, he played a pivotal role in shaping the G20 presidency of India. It has stepped down as G20 Sherpa, so you have to keep a tab that who now becomes the G20 Sherpa. Because you have to keep a tab on the news that who is now the G20 Sherpa, leaders of each country which represent at G20. Okay? After 45 years of public service, the reason why Amitabh Kanji has stepped down is because he wants to pursue opportunities in the non-government sector and the private sector most probably. Okay? So Kant was instrumental in forging global consensus during India's G20 presidency. He is transitioning from government to public or private policy think tanks and startups. He was former Niti Aayog CEO also. He was G20 Sherpa also, and he made reforms like Make in India, aspirational districts program also. He emphasized development, innovation, sustainability. He was seen as people-centric, inclusive, promoting cooperative federalism, local culture, infrastructure upgrades. He is credited with integrating African Union as a permanent member of G20. Okay, so what is the primary reason Amitabh Kant stepped down as India's G20 chair? He was offered a role in United Nations. He retired from professional engagements. He wants to explore opportunities outside the public sector. He was appointed finance secretary. So until and unless you have read the article, you would not know the answer to this question. And that is why newspaper reading, article reading, understanding articles is very important. Yes, he wants to explore opportunities outside the public sector. ठीक है? अच्छा, now RBI seeks market views on aligning call money rate with repo rate. What is this call money rate? What is this call money rate? See, one when you study, your finance section, when you study about markets, one is your money market, then is your call money market, and then secondary market. So my question to all of you is, what is the difference between a money market, call money market, and a secondary market? Who is going to tell me the difference between money market, call money market, and secondary market? Let's wait on this call money rate. Let's first understand the difference between money market, call money market, and secondary market. Chetan is saying one day overnight market, short term funds. What are you talking about? Specify money market, call money market, secondary market. All money, notice money, term money. Muskan is saying short term money lending and borrowing. Acha. Then what is your secondary market? See, call money overnight, ma'am. Acha, ठीक है. See, when we talk about those kind of financial instruments which are usually traded for less than 365 days. ठीक है? From 1 to 364 days. For example, treasury bills, commercial paper, certificate of deposits. All these come under your money market. ठीक है? So treasury bills, commercial paper, certificate of deposits, less than 365 days, short-term funds, short-term fund generation is part of your money market. Secondary market is more than 365 days. Okay? When you want money for more than 365 days, when you issue money for more than 365 days is your secondary market. Call money happens when banks and institutions. Okay, you've not completed the sentence, Neha. Chetan, secondary market is like share market, stock market, exactly. Bhakti, secondary, जहाँ securities bought and sold की जाती हैं, where one can buy already issued securities is your secondary market. Secondary is for buying and selling of shares which have already been released in market, not first time. That is another difference. So secondary market may more than 365 days when you want to buy and sell the securities, that is secondary market. For less than 365 is your money market. ठीक है? And call money market is very short term market. Very short term market. Overnight is your call money market. And if you are using the word notice money, then we consider it till 14 days. So 1 to 14 days is your call and notice money. 1 day overnight is your call money market. Very short term is your call money market. Less than 365 days, short term is your money market. Long term is your secondary market. Now the difference between this, the difference that you are saying 1 to 14, 1 to 14 is notice, है ना? Yes, Chetan. So from primary and secondary में the difference is this, that in case of your primary market, first time shares are bought and sold, and secondary market में second time or third time or the other times, right? Yes, exactly. Yes, Chetan. Okay? So this is the major difference between money market, call money market and secondary market. Now here what we are saying is that RBI seeks market views on aligning the call money rate with the repo rate. Right now the call money rate is less than the repo rate. Call money rate is less than the repo rate. So repo rate is around 5.50%, call money is around 5.30%. So now the RBI wants that should this call money rate be aligned with repo rate, that if repo rate is 5.50, call money should also be 5.50. Okay? This is what this article is saying, that RBI has initiated consultations with large market participants to explore ways of aligning the overnight interbank call money rate more closely with the policy repo rate. This is aimed at improving monetary policy transmission, stabilizing short-term interest rates by addressing this gap between operational and policy rates. IPO, FPO market primary. Yes, Chetan. Okay? RBI wants to make this overnight call money rate to align with 5.50, which is your repo rate, and currently it is 5.30. So there are gaps between the operative and policy rates. Okay, so now this signals that banks access cheaper funding than RBI prefers. Okay, that is why we are saying that we might align this with this, and that is why RBI is saying that what are your views? Should we align this call money rate with the repo rate? Okay. So this is what this article is about. What is the primary objective of RBI seeking market feedback regarding overnight call money rate? To reduce interest rates on long-term loans, to align call money rate with the policy repo rate, to increase foreign investment, to launch a new monetary policy framework. What is the answer? Right, to align the call money rate with the policy repo rate. Center takes over highway bids, clips state PWD wings. Now what this article is saying, that Center has withdrawn the powers of the Public Works Department and Road Construction Departments to independently issue bid documents for national highway projects. So what was happening before? The Public Works Department and these road construction departments, they could independently on their own issue bids for a national highway project. They could do auctions for national highway projects, but now they have taken away this power from PWDs and your RCDs, and now the matters will be routed through regional officers of Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. So pehle they could directly issue bids, directly bring in auctions for national highway projects, but now they have to take this path of these regional offices of MORTH. Okay? State PWDs and RCDs can no longer issue independent bids. More regional officers are going to be the bridge now. All highway projects will now follow this new system. So MORTH is also preparing a separate standard operating procedure also for dispute resolution. Around 10,000 kilometers of highway construction is proposed in financial year 26. 6,500 crore has been earmarked for repair and maintenance. And this move is to standardize and ensure transparency, reduce legal disputes in the court. We just streamline the process, but this could delay awards due to increased central scrutiny also. So, what major change has Center introduced in the bidding process of national highway projects? States are now free to award all highway projects independently. More regional officers must now vet and approve all state bids. States will only handle projects above 500 crore. Only private contractors can bid for highway projects. What is the answer? Right. More regional officers must now vet and approve all state bids. ठीक है? FATF to analyze terror financing trends. What is this FATF? Anyone? Financial Action Task Force. Financial Action Task Force. What is the role of this organization? FATF. What is the role of this organization? Anyone? Yes, Financial Action Task Force, Chetan. But what is the role of FATF? Yes, so it scrutinizes and controls terror financing. And if any country is focusing on terror financing, is bringing in terror financing, FATF puts that country in grey list, blacklist. You might have heard of this. Pakistan is mostly in the grey list most of the times. So FATF ensures that terror financing is not happening. Okay, terrorism funding risk and factors analysis. Black grey list, exact. Okay. Where is the headquarter of FATF? Where is the headquarter of FATF? Where is the headquarter of FATF? Yes, it is in Paris, France. Paris, France. Okay? Here is your headquarter of FATF. So, because of this terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir, the Pahalgam attack that we saw, this Financial Action Task Force has announced that it will release a comprehensive analysis of global terror financing trends. Okay, so it is going to bring in certain different norms and it is going to scrutinize this. A report is going to be released. And first time FATF is acknowledging the concept of state sponsored terrorism. Okay, first time FATF is going to acknowledge the state sponsored terrorism. Okay, and FATF said it has worked for 10 years to understand and counter terror financing risks. It supports over 200 jurisdictions globally. Upcoming report will include case compilations from global network. It will help both public and private sectors to stay alert during threats. India has objected to IMF and ADB funding to Pakistan, and it has raised concerns that this money is being utilized for terror financing, and that is why FATF is going to bring certain rules and certain guidelines related to this. ठीक है, so why is the FATF's upcoming report on terror financing considered significant? It will propose sanctions against Pakistan. It replaces earlier AML compliance report. It focuses only on Southeast Asia. It includes acknowledgement of state-sponsored terrorism for the first time. What is the answer to this question? Yes, it includes acknowledgement of state-sponsored terrorism for the first time. ठीक है, then India's wholesale inflation drops to 14-month low in May. So wholesale price inflation has dropped to a 14-month low compared to 0.85% in April. So it is 0.39%. ठीक है, this is data from Ministry of Commerce and Industry. WPI inflation stood at 0.39%. Vegetables, potatoes, pulses का food prices have decreased. Fuel and power inflation dropped. WPI for non-food items has also declined. ठीक है, ICRA projects that WPI food inflation may soften further. 20 out of 22 food items showed a year-on-year decline in inflation. ठीक है, what is the main reason behind fall in India's wholesale inflation to 0.39% in May 2025? Increase in crude oil prices, rise in manufactured good prices, decline in food, fuel and non-food manufacturing prices, and RBI's policy rate hike. What is the answer? Yes, decline in fuel, food and non-food manufacturing prices. This is important. This was also a small paragraph, small article. Unemployment rate at 5.6% in May. Rural farm jobs slump. So unemployment rate rose to 5.6% in May from 5.1%. So unemployment is increasing. Okay? And the rise is primarily driven by decline in agricultural employment, and this might even be because of, say, seasonal unemployment also. And a seasonal factor can also be a reason. Both men and women were affected, with female unemployment rate at 5.8%. So women ka unemployment rate 5.8%, men ka 5.6%. This data can be used in your descriptive answer writing if you have a question related to unemployment. So unemployment is at 5.6%. It is up from April, which was 5.1%. And reason is because of rural unemployment. ठीक है, and women के 5.8%, men के 5.6%. ठीक है, contraction in agricultural activity is the major reason. Stress in rural labor markets is also a reason. So what was the primary reason for the rise in unemployment to 5.6% in May 2025 according to Mosby? Decline in industrial output, global recession effects, contraction in rural agricultural employment, fiscal policy tightening. Yes, contraction in rural agricultural employment. Acha, again, a surprise question for you. When is the 16th census of India scheduled to begin, and what makes it historically significant? Again, this is also a very small article in the newspaper, yesterday's newspaper. When is the 16th census of India scheduled to begin, and what makes it historically significant? January 2026, it will be the first digital census. October 2026 and March 2027, it includes the first nationwide caste enumeration since 1931. March 2027, it is conducted by Election Commission. October 2026, it will focus only on rural population data. Yes, exactly. October 2026 and March 2027 includes caste enumeration for the first time since 1931. Okay, so the government on Monday notified the 16th census will take place in two phases. On 1st March 2027 for most of India, and 1st October 2026 for snowbound remote regions like Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand. This will be unique as it will include the first nationwide caste enumeration since 1931. Okay? Who has been, again, another question for you. Who has been appointed as the new managing director and head of Meta's India operations effective July 1st, 2025? This was also in news. A small, again, article. Appointed as new MD and head of Meta's India operations. Sundar Pichai, Sandhya Devanathan, Arun Srinivas, Rajiv Chandrasekhar. What is the answer? Bhakti Singh B. Chetan is saying Arun Srinivas, and Arun Srinivas is exactly the correct answer. Yes, Muskan Chetan. Arun Srinivas is Meta's India head. So he's the new managing director and head of India's operations, and this is effective from 1st July 2025. Sandhya Devanathan was previously leading India. Okay, so Bhakti, you were giving me the answer for the previous one. So it was Sandhya Devanathan, but now it is Arun Srinivas. He's an IIM Kolkata alumnus and has 30 years of experience. Okay, So that is all from my side. Thank you so much, everyone. If you want to connect with me beyond these sessions, then Mannat Educator is my Telegram handle. You can be a part of my group. That is all from my side. These were the important articles. I have tried to cover the most important articles, and I've not. I've tried to not leave anything. So these were the important ones. I hope you liked the session. I hope you've understood. And just keep reading the newspaper on your own. If there's any doubt, you can ask me in the comment section. Otherwise, we are going to end the session over here. All right, all of you, you too have a great day. Thank you so much, and see you all in my next one. Okay, fine, everyone. Keep studying and download the PDF, read the PDF, and this is how you have to read the newspaper also. The motive of this class is also to understand how to read the newspaper, how to see the different aspects of newspaper. Okay, thank you so much and have a great day.